because I am very, very, very pleased to introduce to y'all number 6. Number 6 is very special because number 6 is our first male. Not only is number 6 our first male, but he's our first Black male. So that's like, woo! We get a twofer. And so we're super excited to have him. And so I'm going to be introducing him, but please share this slide because for those of you that don't know, Black male therapists are extremely hard to find. And so I want everybody to know that Yellowbird Therapy got them if they prefer Black male therapists. So without further ado, yay!
Hey, Dominique, how you doing?
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing good, thank you.
Good, good, good. Well, I'm going to let you introduce yourself to the masses. Tell us who you are. They've been waiting.
All right. Well, my name is Jason Perry. I am a new therapist with Yellowbird Counseling, something I'm very, very excited about. But I am from Birmingham. I grew up in Hoover, and I attended the University of Montevallo for my Bachelor's of Business Administration. But I ended up getting my master's in counseling from the University of Montevallo. And I currently still serve at the University of Montevallo as the Student Diversity Recruitment and Retention Coordinator, where I coordinate the Montevallo MAID program and our new Falcon Scholars in Action program. And so actually through that program, the Falcon Scholars program, that was my introduction into counseling and my introduction to Black counselors for the first time. And so it's just been such a transformative process for me. But I'm just excited to be here to talk more with you, talk more about Yellowbird and all the great things that are ahead.
Yay! So tell us, because you said you did not start off in social work and or psychology like some of us may have. So tell us how you made the switch from business to getting your master's in counseling.
Yes, so this was actually a very tough decision for me. A lot of thought went into it, a lot of just consultation went into it, because as we've talked about in the past, this is not a common thing for Black males to, one, participate in, but to even pursue the field as a profession. That was all very, very new to me. Luckily for me, I had the right mentors, the right influences that could help me venture into that process. But I did not take that process lightly. I was very, I knew the professors within the College of Business very well. They were very much my mentors. They very much still mentor me. But I really had to trust my instinct, and I really had to trust the mentorship that I was receiving through the experiences that I got that led me to counseling. And so through that process, I realized from the experience I gained as a Falcon Scholar, working with counselors almost on an everyday basis, mentoring students, working with students, being able to be in the presence of groups that our counselors were facilitating, and just to be able to be in that environment, I knew that was my purpose. I knew of all the things that I was doing during my senior year in college, showing up every day, impacting those youth, and seeing the relationship those counselors built with them. It led me to know that was the direction I wanted to go in.
So for you personally, like, what's the one thing, as you saw, you got to watch the counselors interact with the students? Like, what was the thing that really stood out to you to like let you know this is probably the direction you should go in?
I would say specifically working within the class with GED prep, and just those who are in that transitional period. I think that's one that led me to counseling, but also what piques my interest in the MAID program that I coordinate, which helps minority students with the transition into college. And in that process, we're trying to help our students overcome any professional, academic, social, or emotional challenges that they face throughout their time in college. But I think my first taste of that is being at the day program in Alabaster, where we got to work with students who were trying to obtain their GED, students who were either at risk or were in need of credit recovery or were facing a lot of different things that made it to where they need to be in a different setting with additional support. Um, and so for me, that one thing that I really saw was that group where we got to talk about the different things that these students were facing, the different barriers. For a minute, we were able to not focus so much on the actions or the behaviors, but the meanings behind those actions and behaviors. And it led to some deep, meaningful conversations that not only made me think and reflect, but made each of those students think and reflect about their motivations, why they're here, and what they want to gain from that experience.
What are some experiences that maybe some people like, generally, of course, what are
Mhm.
some experiences that were leading to the behaviors?
I believe that the impact of your family life, the beliefs, the core beliefs of yourself or your family, or those that were imposed on you. I believe those mechanisms of support that are either within your home or within your school or the lack thereof. I would say influences. I would definitely say the influences, whether that be at home or at school or social media or whatever it might be. Being in that high school setting with teens, there was a lot of influences, a lot of different influences that were really serious things, things that in other settings might not even be addressed. But when you think about addiction, or when you think about certain things that teens are truly facing, even domestic violence or things to that nature, those are all things that affect them within the classroom, and which was leading them to be in this setting. And so for me, I got to interact with these students on a daily basis and hear those different stories and this was pre-counsel. This is before I even kind of knew what the processes of counseling even looked like. But through that time, there were 5 counselors on staff and a graduate assistant, graduate intern on staff who was at the University of Montevallo, who I got to learn from, who mentored me, and really just kind of opened my eyes to what the process, what the goal of counseling was, and how they could impact students within this particular setting.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. It's just a fully developed experience, and you purposely chose the profession, which is something that I look for when I'm hiring people. I don't want people that just kind of want to just do it for whatever
Mhm.
surface reason. Like, it's really something that you're passionate about. So you mentioned core beliefs, which is really, really important because a lot of people don't know that that's what their everyday thoughts are filtered through, which drives their emotions, which drive their behaviors. What are some of the core beliefs that you encountered as you were working at that capacity?
I think just one of the things I encountered that kind of overlap with my world of higher education and student diversity. It's just some of those beliefs of inadequacy, and addressing that. I think is something that takes time to get into that process. But that's what I kind of sense the most. And the reason I say that specifically is because that affected my approach going in every day. Um, as a senior in college at the University of Montevallo, I wanted to be an influence to those students, and I wanted to be a symbol of hope every day walking into the school. And so that feeling of inadequacy, whether it be working with GED students and making them feel as though college is still an option, and not saying that from as a way to patronize or being naive to the barriers, being able to say college is still an option and I understand these are the different barriers you're still going to face. Knowing that even to tie it back into counseling, knowing that even that is something important to highlight as they're taking that next step. And highlight, especially for Montevallo, we know there's a lot of students who are introverts or facing social anxiety or different things that make a small college more attractive to students who face those particular things. So being able to address those things and talking about that, I think is super important. And I think taking another step during my time as a Falcon Scholar, I was able to take 10 of those students to the University of Montevallo. And we had different staff members, different offices, talk to them about what college would look like for them, and what that process, how they could start that process, and trying to make that a reality. I think during my time as a mentor at the day program, that's the approach that I always wanted to take, and starting those conversations around goals and dreams and aspirations and hopes, and every day bringing that positive light, being able to help them envision something different, envision something positive, envision something motivating. That's something I wanted to see from those students every day, because they were surrounded by so much darkness, and they were dealing with so many things, even personally, that they were trying to cope with. And so just walking in every day, figuring out how can we work collaboratively as a staff, and then collaboratively with the students to address those things, and still making sure that they're having success in and outside of the classroom.
Awesome. So how would you, so taking those skills, because all those are very, very important skills for what you're doing at Yellowbird, tell us kind of maybe what that might look like in a one-on-one setting. Let's say you have, I don't know, a teen boy who comes and maybe his mom or dad is making him come, and he's maybe not the most open to the idea of counseling. What might your first session look like with him?
I think building rapport and getting out of the idea that counselors are just these oracles or something, and getting out of the idea that this just some type of person that is not human. And so I think building rapport, there's so many things. One of the biggest things that probably makes me make it to where people may guess counseling as the last profession that I would do is that I was very, very much into football. I coached football. There's so many things that I'm into that has helped me to build rapport when I was in my practicum settings, when I was in my internship settings, and now in a setting working with minority students all across the University of Montevallo. So being able to build rapport and help them to understand that I'm here as someone that cares about their success and their goals and what they want to gain, and being able to say we can occupy this space with something that is meaningful and beneficial to you, something that you want to achieve from this, and being able to see that that person take that in, and being able to understand that, I think is really important to me. And so when I'm thinking about that first session, I really want to first focus on that space. I worked with Trio Upward Bound at the University of Montevallo this summer, and I led a group. It was a 5-week group for their personal development component to their summer academy. And every week we would start the day with something we would call find our space, and that's where we will collectively come together to figure out how to be present in that moment, whatever that looks like. So thinking about first getting the things out that are occupying our mind in that moment, whether it was something that has happened recently or whether it's just a thought that's been permeating in your head, and then trying to bring us to a collective thought. So finding that topic, finding that thing that we're going to focus on today, and that always helped the group be more productive throughout the day. So I think that's really important to me, even in the individual sessions, being able to find that that space between me and the client where we're both present and we're ready to work.
Awesome. I love that. I love that. So, what are some areas that you've noticed being able to connect with clients on that maybe they're not, that help build rapport, maybe when they're not quite as open?
Yeah, I think knowing what the client, learning what the client is passionate about, what interests the client has, what what fears the clients have, what hopes the clients have. Um, Learning more about them and what drives them, what motivates them, or even the lack thereof. If they have a feeling that there's nothing that's driving them or motivating them right now, starting with, well, why is that? Hell, all of those things are ways we can begin to just kind of figure out where are we starting from, like what's our base, what are we trying to get to. Often what I'll see in working with, when I was working with middle schoolers, that was a very very tough process. And for me, I knew that if I went in with the common questions that you might see on TV, or you might see, just from a practicum class or something like that, or pre-practicum, um, then the students would not respond the best to that. Just the basic, how are you feeling today? But knowing that, being able to build that rapport initially, by, I've talked about everything from anime to Harry Potter to the lunchroom food, cafeteria food, all these different things, to normalize that space and let them know that they don't have to come here to be something different and have to go to a place that's unfamiliar. They're coming here to really be their most vulnerable and authentic selves. And I'm trying to create that space. I'm trying to build that comfort. And so that's always my goal. And so sometimes that means I need to let them kind of lead in that. But I'm actively trying to get them to that spot where they can really relax. And I've noticed, even just taking the time with the client, both of us taking a deep breath can kind of ease some of that uh, anxiety or some of that concern that's within the room as you're starting something new. But that's the kind of space that I want to create.
Awesome. I love it. So you've mentioned several different age groups, from middle school to college age to high school age. So is there a population that you don't prefer to work with, or one that you're most comfortable with?
I would say, since my time as an intern at the Birmingham Mayor's Office Division of Youth Services, I have wanted to impact youth, specifically in Alabama. I knew that was a passion of mine. Um, and I knew, even being in the higher education setting, it is so rewarding for me to see people walk into their purpose, walk into their passions, and to see that light bulb come on. So I really think there's something powerful in that. So naturally, it might be harder for me to work with those who are at different stages in their life, whether they're like older adults, or even going bringing it back to specific issues or specific diagnosis that I'm not familiar with, just based off my experience in the college setting or the high school setting. And I would say that, for me currently, my supervisor is Josh Miller, the director of counseling services at the University of Montevallo. So even as I'm going through those learning processes, I'm going it through the scope of what, even what he's experienced. And so those are things that I'm actively engaged in and asking questions about. I love supervision because I never run out of questions. There's always so much to ask. And people like you have such a wealth of knowledge and experience. So just tapping into that, I don't want to close the door on anything. I really want to become a well-rounded, holistic counselor, and continue to build hope and build resilience within the people that I serve. But I'm just taking it one step at a time, trying to figure out where do I need to go to build that confidence and confidence in areas that I haven't treaded yet.
Gotcha. So basically, guys, I mean, if it were me, I would prefer a ALC, which is Jason's status as far as licensure, because not only does he have a licensing supervisor that he meets with weekly, he also has me. So he is covered up with all the supervision, just like Shekinah and just like Kayla. So you can you know that you got somebody that is not just stagnant. They're growing, they're learning, they want to grow, they want to learn, and they're soaking everything in. So it's like Kayla was explaining when we introduced her, it's like a medical resident. It's like a resident. So he's in his residency right now, but that's the best place to have because he has so much of that support, like from me, from Josh, other mentors, and he's able to experience things, and it's safe for him and the client because he has superiors to refer back to answer any questions he has. And we have great conversations. So he really is like passionate about what he's doing. He really wants to do the best at what he's doing. He wants to make sure that he has all the information that he can have. And he already has his own skill set of being able to work with a majority of the population of males that we get. They'll range from middle school, high school, college, some even post-college, but he has experience in those settings that have also given him the experience to work with different types of students, different types of capacities. So at one time or another, we were all a student. And it was a very fragile time for us, especially those ages, middle school, high school, and college. Woo, those are some fragile ages, and that's when a person is gaining most of their development. So if he can, basically, I always say, if you can work with kids, you can work with anybody. You can work with young people. You can work with anybody because they keep you on your toes.
That's right.
So yeah, he's covered up with supervision and continuing to learn and continuing to stay fresh. Because what happens sometimes, if when you get to like post supervision level, you could get stale, and so he is actively engaged in the learning process. Whereas like me, Bridget, and Janice and Jennifer, we got to go out more and seek out supervision opportunities so that we can stay relevant. But so yeah, that's great. That's great. So tell us, let's see. So of course you're open to a lot of different populations. This is always the question. How do you feel about working with LGBTQ? You got to have that on everybody's video.
Absolutely. I'm really looking forward to that opportunity, and I say that because at the University of Montevallo, I not only do I serve all minority students, I serve different subgroups within that, and so I advise the Black Student Union, I advise the Hispanic Student Organization, the International Student Organization, and many more that all fit within our Minority Student Council. One of those groups even being our Spectrum group, which is the university's LGBTQ plus community group on campus. And so in that, I've been able to serve so many students already who identify in that population. And so one of the things that has been rich about that experience is that I've been able to build those relationships with students, see them become leaders within our program, see them flourish within what they're doing in their careers, and be a part of that. So just like any client that I encounter, being able to go through that process, the therapeutic process, like we discussed, being able to set goals, being able to see those goals reach, that's something that I want to see with every client that I encounter. So I just like I would say in my work at the University of Montevallo, I am passionate about serving people. And that's anybody that steps foot in our office or our Zoom or Google Meet or whatever that might be. I'm passionate about that. And so I'm looking forward to that.
Awesome. Awesome. I love it. They know since I'm a part of the LGBTQ community, all my therapists either have to be a part of the community or ally with the community. So I got it. So that way they can look at the video and say, okay, great. He's an ally. So good. Good. Let's see. What is your most favorite population to work with?
I would say my most favorite, it really gets into the weeds of the types of students that I'm serving. Of course, I love working with college students just because of the access to resources that we have on Montevallo's campus. Just even thinking about counseling services, thinking about student health services, thinking about the academic success services that are on campus. So it's the closest thing to being able to work closely with students and then see that growth manifest through their experience in taking on the recommendations that we have for them. So if we are encouraging them to be more social or something to that nature, or we're encouraging them to take a chance on the opportunity, an internship, or things to that nature. Not only can we be a part of that encouragement process and that support process, we can also provide some of those opportunities. We can also network with some of the people that we know on campus to get them into those opportunities and see that growth facilitated. And the beautiful thing about that is that's starting with them as a freshman and walking through that process with them all the way to when they're seniors and they graduate. That is such a beautiful process, and I'm so excited about that and being able to be intertwined within that with the students that we're serving. So I really love being in the college environment, but I will also say, to get a little bit more specific, working with those who are introverts like I was when I was on Montevallo's campus, working with those who are leaders and like to please people or overcommit themselves like I also did on Montevallo's campus, working with those who might be more reserved and it might be tougher for them to put themselves out there. So I really like to see those opportunities for those students to have big wins and to overcome things that I would consider and hope they consider to be a very big deal in their own growth, their own process. Those are the things that just really excite me. And why I like that for the college age, just because of the experience at all, really seeing anyone go through that and overcoming something is something that I'm excited about, and I think it's a honor to be a part of that with someone and walk through that with someone.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's really rewarding to just watch people grow, especially in a situation that can be as challenging as, going through college. You
Right.
know, I have a lot of clients myself that are in college. And it's a weekly, let's reset our goals type thing for them. So that's going to be good for us to have you and work with definitely some of our males who could be in school or not even in school, but just going through a process that maybe is new to them, they're not familiar with.
Yeah.
How do they adjust to that? And sometimes it can be harder for guys to ask for help. So knowing that they're talking to somebody that knows what it's like to help people get through a process of growth, that is going to be comforting for a lot of people. So that's good.
Absolutely.
Good.
Absolutely.
So tell us a little bit more, okay, about you personally. What is your experience personally with therapy and just your self-care regimen? Because as everyone knows, I practice what I preach. I ask my therapist to practice what they preach. So we are really big on therapy and self-care for ourselves over here. So tell us a little bit more about what that's like for you.
Absolutely. One of those, when I even went to the day program, therapy in and of itself, or just being in the presence of counselors, was something that I had not even experienced before. It was so new to me, and I really didn't have that understanding. Um, the way the way TV shows and movies have depicted counselors, it really gives you like a over dramatic look into what you think and what you. And so one of those things that that I really learned during that process is how impactful that is to all of the other aspects of your life. And I believe that was the turning point for me to gain an understanding of why this is necessary, especially in times of grief or adversity, or if you really are um, battling a mental illness that has not been treated. And so, just like many of us on campus, our true introduction to that is through our wonderful counseling services office on campus. And not only it was I blessed to be able to interact with Josh as a student, but being able to have him now as a supervisor is just an unbelievable thing, because it feels those conversations we now have in this relationship, what a swing, like what a full circle moment for me, because now going from that into now him being able to help me become a better counselor and serve students in the way he served me, that's something that makes this experience so even more special for me. But to talk about self-care, I was introduced, of course, to you, to Yellowbird, and I would say specifically into investing into my self-care through my great friend Shekinah Lee. She Her devotion to self-care and all of the great things that she puts out through Purpose Joy really made me want to invest more into my self-care and into that process and what it looks like. And we even had a class, one of our internship classes, where we dived into a book called Self Care for Counselors. And so just really having those conversations for someone working full time, in graduate school, trying to balance all of those things, it doesn't look like there's any time for that, especially when you're working all day and then you got class from like 5 to 10 or something like that during the summertime. Um, but I learned real quick as I got older that I need to make time for this, or I'm going to feel it. Yes, maybe when I was in high school, I could stay up all night doing whatever I'm doing, playing the video games, texting my girlfriend, or doing whatever I'm doing, and then wake up, be in class by being zero period by 7:20, and it's like it's nothing. But today, if I'm not in bed by 9:30, then I'm gonna feel it the whole next day. And so even just looking at how much I'm sleeping, looking at what I'm putting in my body, how much water I'm drinking, looking at all the forms of self care that affect me, whether that be mental, emotional, for me spiritual, that physical self care, all of these different things are things that I've had to really pay more close attention to, because it has been a challenge to go through these transitions into working full time, being a full time student, now pursuing a PhD, trying to pursue my LPC, all of these different things you're trying to balance. Without self care, without investing in that, I don't believe I would be able to do it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I talk to all of them right off bat when they start. I'm like, listen, this is how to do your schedule. Only work in the confines of what feels comfortable to you. Do not overextend yourself. I'm not one of them tyrants of a boss who's like, oh, just work yourself to death. I'm like, wait a minute. What's your self-care like? If you can only do X hours, those are the only hours you could do. After that, people go on your waiting list or they go on the next week's roster. That's how that goes, because we're not going to be overworking ourselves, because if we do that, we're not going to be effective. We just won't. So to just, have those boundaries is protecting you, protecting the client. And so that is one of the first things that we talk about when I bring counselors on, because while I'm sending them cases, they think they got to see them all right then. No.
Right.
I'm sending you cases in the week that you get them, it's full, you already got it. They got to go to the next week, and they can go on your cancel list. So that's what you have to offer them. But I'm not going to ask them to squeeze nobody in, because there's a max number of people that you can really serve. And to serve effectively, like me, I usually don't see more than 5 people a day. Sometimes I'll do 6, but most of the time I just do 5, because to work effectively, that's the sweet spot. It's about 5. Other therapists, for them, is 4, which is still a lot. If you're seeing 4 people a day over a 5-day period, that's still a lot. So for some therapists, some of my others, they work on weekends, which is totally cool if they're comfortable with that, but I don't require it because I don't work weekends. But, so it's just whatever the sweet spot is to where they can help be effective, help their clients, and also help themselves, because this is supposed to be a rewarding profession, but it can be a burnout profession if we don't treat ourselves correctly. So
absolutely. I think to that point, when I'm working with my students in the MAID program, we always talk about our study schedules, and after talking about our study schedules, then we talk about the quality of our studying. And when we have that conversation, then we can really get to the root of how self-care can play a difference in the quality of their studying, and all of the other factors that are affecting their effectiveness during those study sessions. And as we're working down the list, because we'll set professional goals, academic goals, social goals, and then we'll set what I like to call emotional goals, where we'll talk about self-care. And in that, we do the same thing. Just like we talk about our study schedule and the quality of our study schedule, we'll talk about self-care and the quality of our self-care, and if it's really having the impact that it's intended to have. So you make such a great point about that, because I was very, very stubborn on that initially, but going through the counseling program, it really allowed me to put that into perspective and say the quality of everything that I do, all of the work that I do, will be improved by investing in myself through self-care.
Awesome. Love it. Love it. And so there will be questions such as, does Jason take insurance? No, not right now. He's private pay, which is okay. Because just like Shekinah and Kayla, I've had some people that just really wanted a Black female. And so they were who we had. And so they would rather have who they feel comfortable with and just pay out of pocket. So same thing for Jason, while he can't take the insurance, really his fee is not much more than what a copay would be anyway. So, I do that so that people that don't have insurance, or maybe people that feel like they would really benefit and they want to invest in themselves, they can see Jason, and it won't be a huge financial burden for them. So we have an affordable rate to where you can see him. And like I said, same thing with Shekinah and Kayla. So, yeah. All right. I think that may be it. Did you have any last comments for us before I let you go?
Just wanted to say thank you so much for pioneering the way in not only your work in counseling, but just in entrepreneurship, and really just for Black counselors specifically. Um, we all know the University of Montevallo is a PWI, but for you to be a graduate of Montevallo and to be able to connect to other graduates of Montevallo, it truly is special. So I just definitely have to thank you, and also just say how excited I am to work with you and the Yellowbird team, as well as all of any clients that come forward that want to work with me. I'm so excited to do that, and will always give my all to every session, to every client that I can, to see them reach the goals that they set through that process.
Love it. I love it. And I appreciate and thank you. And just, thank you for appreciating me. Y'all
Of
really
course.
just be just like really just pulling on my heartstrings with that.
Of course.
I be
Of
so
course.
focused. I forget to like take in the appreciation
Of
sometimes.
course.
So yes, I
Of
appreciate
course.
y'all and I appreciate you appreciating me. We're so,
Of
so
course.
happy to have you on board. Really looking forward and excited just to seeing all the lives that you're going to be able to impact, and
Yeah.
just that we're even able to offer that to you. Somebody just texted me today asking, do you know where I can find a male therapist? I was like, I do.
Yeah.
Got
Yeah.
one. So
That's
it's so refreshing to finally be able to say that and,
Yeah.
and be able to offer that need, fill that need for people. So
Absolutely. Absolutely.
well, great. Thank you again. And I know y'all, he will be back doing other lives on other things. We're going to let him go because he got about 27 minutes before his bedtime. We
That's
don't
right.
want him to feel it tomorrow doing a good thing.
That's right.
So yeah, so definitely, like I said, he will be around. Definitely, if you have any questions for him, you can email us. You can go to yellowbirdcounseling.com and click on the team tab. If you want to see him, you can just submit your inquiry under his profile, or if you have a family member or friend who wants to see him, you can submit under his profile. We will get it. We will get you connected. It's very, very easy, a seamless process. And yeah.
Right.
All righty. Well, thank you, Jason, so much for being here. And we will talk soon.
All right. Thank you. Have a great night.
You too.
Bye.
Bye. So there you have it. We got it. Jason. So please share this live to your groups, to your page, because someone is looking for a Black male therapist. I see people posting it on Facebook all the time. Instagram, if you could share it with people in your inbox, fan base. I don't know if they're sharing capacity, but watch it. Tell somebody about it. They can go to yellowbirdcounseling.com, or they can go to Yellowbird Counseling on Facebook and find us there. Sign up for the newsletter. You want to do that because you're going to miss the opportunities to get the $100 Cash App giveaways. You're going to miss the opportunities if you're not on the newsletter. All right. So I will see you guys next week as we continue to talk about holidays and grief and just depression so that you can be prepared. And we will have, like I said, we will have our grief support group for people that are experiencing their first holidays or just the holidays without a loved one. We're going to have that support to offer to you prior to the Thanksgiving holiday on November 20th at 11 a.m., which is a Saturday. Perfect time. Football ain't on yet. You know what I'm saying? And so, games start at 2:30 and 6:30 usually. So we got you. It's virtual. You can enjoy it from the comfort of your own home. And I believe Jason will probably be joining us there as well. So I look forward to seeing you all next week, and everybody take care.